Hi, my name's Minji, and I make and style costumes and cosplay on my YouTube channel, where you can find me at Minji Lee. Really excited today to be back on Prime Video to bring you guys another custom cosplay look. Today's look is going to be inspired by Invincible or Mark Grayson from the series Invincible, and because Mark Grayson is a guy, I'm going to make it a little bit more suited to me and make a more feminized version of his suit. So I'm really excited to show you guys my interpretation, so let's get started. Because I wanted to make Invincible's outfit more feminine rather than recreate his costume directly, I drew up 3 renderings to get a sense of how different style elements might look. I experimented with different styles of bodysuits and leotards on the outer 2 figures, while keeping the middle figure very true to the show's design. I decided I liked the far right figure the most because I felt like the long sleeves give a similar overall feel, while changing the legs of the bodysuit was not a huge departure from the original, but definitely gives it a more feminine look. For the pattern, I'm using 2 McCall's patterns as a base, but you could use any bodysuit pattern. I altered the design of the patterns to accommodate the color blocking on Invincible's costume. It's going to end up being a lot of piecing together, which can get kind of complicated, so I'll go over the order for that when we get to the construction. Before I can put the bodysuit together, I need to cut all the fabric. Invincible has 3 main colors on his bodysuit: blue, black, and yellow. Because this is a bodysuit, I wanted to use all stretch material to make it more comfortable and fitted, but I also wanted some varied textures to keep it from looking too one-dimensional. To achieve that, I'm using a matte black stretch vinyl, a blue stretch metallic foil, and a yellow matte milliskin. I won't be lining this costume because the lining would affect the stretch and make it uncomfortably warm. To put the leotard together, I'm first going to reconstruct the original pattern pieces. Even though this means I might have to switch thread colors more frequently, this makes it a lot easier to get everything together than stitching each color together first. I'm going to use a straight stretch stitch for pretty much every seam on this costume. Once I have something that looks more like the original pattern, I can put the vertical seams together. Before I stitch the bodysuit into a more tube-like shape, I want to install the center back zipper while the 2 back pieces are still flat. To install the zipper, I machine baste the 2 center back pieces together using a wide stitch, then I hand baste the zipper so it's centered on the center back opening. Using a zipper foot, I can stitch around the zipper, switching thread colors for each section. Because stretch fabrics can pull and ripple when top stitching, I'm using tracing paper to help prevent the presser foot from catching on the fabric. Once the zipper is stitched in, I use a seam ripper to open up the basted center back seam. Now that the zipper is in, I can stitch the rest of the leotard together into a tube. After each seam, I top stitch with a double needle so that all the seams lay really flat. Stretch fabric doesn't usually hold a crease very well, so this will make the seams look cleaner. I'm using a double needle rather than doing one side at a time because this will still allow for some stretch along the seams. Once the leotard is like a tube, I can now stitch the shoulder seams and work on the sleeves. The sleeves are also color blocked and have gloves at the end rather than just a sleeve opening. I'm going to stitch the fingers of the gloves first because they're the trickiest part, and it'll be easier without all the extra fabric of the sleeve attached. I found a pattern on the internet that uses gussets for the fingers, but a simpler glove pattern or just tracing around your hand would also work. Because it needs to be flat where the glove attaches to the rest of the sleeve, I've left the outside seam open, and I'll stitch that up when I stitch the whole sleeve seam. Next, I'm attaching the yellow glove to the black middle section of the sleeve. Because the shape is a little tricky, I'm stitching one line at a time so I have more control over the corners where I have to do a lot of clipping and pivoting. When I get to a corner, make sure to clip just to this point of stitching. If you go past, you'll have a hole, but if you don't go far enough, it won't turn nicely. This time I'm top stitching just on the glove side so it looks more like a glove pulled over a sleeve rather than one whole pieced sleeve. To finish the sleeve, the blue shoulder section also gets added to the black. With all the color blocking done, we have a whole sleeve piece and can stitch up the long seam, being careful to match up the points where the colors meet. Finally, the sleeve gets stitched into the leotard and the bodysuit is almost done. The last part to do on the bodysuit is to finish the leg openings. After closing up the bottom of the bodysuit, I can hem the leg holes, leaving enough space for a 1/4 inch elastic. I'm stitching the leg channels with a straight stretch stitch like I used for the rest of the costume, and I leave the channel open about 1 inch so I have a place to thread the elastic. To make it easy to thread through the channel, I attach a safety pin to the end of the elastic. Once it's all the way through the channel, I can stitch both ends together and close up the opening, and that's the whole bodysuit done. Invincible's original suit design is one whole bodysuit with the legs attached, but because I changed the design a bit, the legs are a separate piece on my costume. I've decided to make them more like thigh-high tights with a built-in boot cover. There are only a few pieces to this, so it'll be much quicker. First, I attach the black vinyl top to the blue boot cover section, and like the gloves, I top stitch only on the boot section to make it look more separated. Next is the long back seam, and I'm careful to match up the point where the colors meet while I'm pinning and stitching. Finally, the sole of the boot cover gets stitched into the bottom. This part is a little tricky because it needs to be darted or stretched to fit. I just decided to stretch it to fit because it was a little faster. Next, trim all the seams and we can finish the top hem. The top edge of the tights are finished similarly to the leg holes of the leotard. The top gets rolled down and top stitched with a straight stretch stitch with enough space left for an elastic channel. The elastic I'm using here is 3/4 of an inch rather than 1/4 inch, so I've left a wider space for this channel. Again, I use a safety pin to help get the elastic through, then stitch the ends together and close up the opening. With that done, the whole costume is complete. Thanks for watching this cosplay tutorial for Invincible. You can stream Invincible now on Prime Video. Once again, I'm Minji Lee, and thank you again for watching.